I think it kind of was doomed to fail from the beginning, as much as the M. Night one was as well, because I don't think road trip movies work.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got a road trip they're going across the entire planet, and it's based off a 20-episode show where they stop every episode to do something, and they grow a little bit along the way. Whereas with most road trip movies, I feel like name a good road trip movie.
Runaway Vacation.
Is that good though?
I don't know.
It's a comedy. Okay, a good one that isn't a comedy, I guess. Yeah, because most road trip movies are comedy movies because that's kind of the only thing that works. Because you get new gags along the way. You're like, oh, here's a new funny situation. Gag. All right, let's get back in the car. And they usually cut over the actual journey. Whereas the journey is the biggest part of the show, and the characters have to grow. You need to go take these characters from
these characters have full arcs where they need to like figure themselves out as people, and like they don't just have like one fundamental flaw. Like these people have
kids.
Like they're children. They have to grow up along the way. Plus they have to adventure. You know, they've got to learn lessons, and they have to change who they are. And you have to. I think the great thing like the show does, and it's because they have so much time, is you could focus on a character every episode almost. Like everyone had a specific episode. Exactly. And in this one, it's like you got to give 7 people, you got to advance their stories a little bit in every episode, but that isn't.
They don't actually do that though, which is weird.
Yeah, it's like just give them something to do each episode, but it's not significant enough.
We'll try not to compare it to the cartoon as much as possible. We'll just go
try
on
our hardest.
Its own merits, but going off its own merits, the acting, directing, and writing is pretty terrible.
Okay,
and a lot of people are saying it looks really good. And I completely disagree.
Yeah, other than like a few small things, like some of the spirit stuff seems cool.
Good. Yes, some things do look really good.
Some things look good, and I'm thinking it's just because a lot of the things you see are obscured by darkness.
When they're trying to blend people with CGI, it absolutely falls apart. Even just when 2 people are talking, because they shot the whole thing on the volume screen, which is a big TV behind the actors, it just looks like you've got characters sitting in front of a PNG. Like all of this. They didn't bother to build most of the sets, and I think it really shows. And then all of the pacing is just, people are just expositing to each other constantly. I don't think any of the characters really do anything. One character will tell another character something, and they'll be like, oh, okay. And then they'll move on to the next scene, which is another character telling another character something.
Yeah, everything is new information to every character in every scene. Like it's very interesting.
Yeah, well,
it's almost like a podcast about Avatar, and they're just cosplaying.
Yeah, the fundamental thing is like Aang sets off in the first episode to learn waterbending, and then he gets a new goal later on, but it's just to get to the Northern Water Tribe.
Yeah.
So that's all he does. He just gets to the Northern Water Tribe. He doesn't actually change from beginning to end. In the last 5 minutes, he decides, oh, I will be the Avatar. Because he's just got nothing going on. He's got no real internal struggles. They sucked all the romance, so there's no will they, won't they with him and Katara.
But this is like one of the greatest love stories of our generation. It's about small wimp learns how to talk to and like confess and like act on emotions.
Fire girl.
With pretty water girl.
Fiery girl, sorry. That's where I was going with that.
I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Don't speak so literally in a show about elements.
IMO Katara is very firebendery for being a waterbender. She's very much like angry as shit. And they didn't want to do angry woman trope because women don't have to be angry, I guess.
Correct.
Obviously. But they didn't just remove her anger, they removed her fire. So like her drive.
Whoa. What are you doing comparing this to that? To the animated?
On its own merits. Well, so Katara does nothing apart from its exposition problem. It has a massive pacing problem. And I think a lot of the pacing problem obviously is also because terrible writing and people just expositing stuff. But they have so much to do because it's a road trip movie. They just have to do a bunch of things. But what's really strange is that it feels like they added unnecessary things. Like you add Azula and her 2 friends, which don't really have anything to do because they're completely separate. They make her be in control of Zhao, which might be okay if you played it mysteriously. But instead, they try to give her a lot of screen time. Like, Azula is in a lot of this show, but she's never actually interacting with any of the characters. And it's not like they're just building her up for season 2, because they take so much time away from Zuko that they don't even build up. It's the gang and it's Zuko, and you spend a fair amount of time with Zuko. but they've taken a lot of that away to give it to Azula.
I think Azula should have been left for like just like a little surprise at the end of this season to be like she's going to be the big
like in the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yes, like she's going to be the big force for the next season.
Yeah.
You know, and that would make sense because then you don't take away from the villains of this arc.
You never really view Zuko as a villain in this because he doesn't actually get a time to be villainy. He doesn't split his time between like, oh, maybe he's more than just a villain. It's literally he's just whinging all the time. Like, I think they knew to Zuko as well, but can't compare things. Zuko doesn't feel like a threat despite being the main threat because they immediately take it away and give it to Azula. And then she's also got Zhao. So now you've got 3 bad guys.
By Zhao.
And they show a lot of the Fire Lord as well. So now you've got 4 main bad guys. And then I guess Uncle is a bad guy, but like you've got several people on the bad guys' side, all doing stuff. And then you've got the gang, which have had most of their time sucked away from them because they've given it to so many other characters. And I'm okay with Azula rocking up so that she's not like suddenly Azula in the next season. They do a lot of Zuko flashbacks. They could put her in Zuko flashbacks being her little terrible child of a self. And then then you meet a slightly more grown up her and all of that like sociopath, psychopath is like now more fully realized.
Yeah, I think it's like they needed to show her being like a rotten kid and like how she'd like do stuff to like get in his way. But then when they show her as an adult, be like, oh no, that just like morphed and evolved into just like her. Yeah. It wasn't just like a bad kid. She's actually like a psychopath. And
they also try to grow her a little bit. Like they give her a sympathetic almost. They're like, oh, she needs to be the best.
I hate that. I hate that everyone needs like an arc of being a good guy.
Even Ozai gets one. And like, you don't need to cram everything into season 1. And I think that's why the whole season just feels bloated to the point where nothing happens. And then they have to exposit everything. And even down to like in the ending, spoilers for a 15-year-old cartoon, for a 19-year-old cartoon, Zhao needs to kill the moon spirit. So he's got a fish in one hand and a knife in the other. But it's not just the fish is the moon spirit. It's the fish is the moon spirit for this only one day because it's the ice moon. And this knife is a special knife from Roku's collection. And he learned this from Roku's collection earlier. It's like they go into all of this stuff that you just don't care about. Like, why does it need to be a magical knife? You stabbed this fish with it.
And the bear avatar even like comes back and he's like, I sense my knife nearby.
Yes, Kuruk. Yeah, just so that they can make Aang go to the spirit oasis. They get him in. That's more bloat. So, referencing the cartoon again, you'll normally only have Avatar Roku and you grow to appreciate Avatar Roku a lot because it's also Avatar Roku is a firebender. And he was born in the Fire Nation, so you're like, oh, obviously the Fire Nation isn't all evil. That helps round out the Fire Nation a little bit. Instead of just Roku and us becoming attached to Roku, Roku gets about 1.5 minutes screen time, and he's a giggly, weird old man instead of a master. You get Kyoshi and you get Kuruk, and they reference Yang Chen like a lot. And it's just like, now we have 4 avatars, 4 bad guys. We've also got a bunch of the normal gang going on doing stuff. There's just so many goddamn characters to smush into. Netflix has the same runtime as all 20 episodes of season 1, more even. But they managed to cram in less while like focusing on hitting plot points that don't matter. It's a little bit like Memberberry.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of people are calling it like, oh, they're obviously fans of the show because they put this in. But to me, it just felt like,
look how faithful they're being. They know our inside jokes and our references.
Yeah, where it's like, no, they're just putting them in to make you do this. Like you're falling for the Memberberries, which is upsetting to me.
What I don't get about this show, and not comparing it to anything else, but in this show where they've said that this main character, the only way that they can save the world is by mastering 4 elements. Only seeing them use the one element and not even try to muck around. Like, you know, Luke trying to use the Force or something. It's a perfect experience when he's there with Katara and he's like, gives her point. He's like, when I do bending, I learned to do it like this. I would have loved to see him be like, you know, maybe you could try something like this and just see him have a natural talent to it because he's obviously going to be drawn to it. Being the avatar and already being a master of an element. They say he's a master already. He has the master tattoos. So having a deeper understanding of where bending comes from, I'd love to see Katara, who's struggling. It's her like 3rd time bending on screen and she's really struggling, and just see Aang at least make the water globe or be like that, you know, and he'd be like, oh wow, like,
it's like, wow,
you know,
why am I so good at this?
It comes naturally, and that would have been a really great like plot point for Katara. Makes her work harder because Aang needs to learn, but she wants to learn as well, so she can't be second best to Aang. You know, I think that just would have been really
That's
good.
exactly what happens in the cartoon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. I think that just could have been really well set up. You know,
you could have given some depth to Katara.
People who haven't watched the cartoon, I think that could have enhanced their experience even more. Other than him having to save the world, he's not doing
There's
his
nothing
other
special
thing.
about him.
Yeah, he's just an airbender.
Yeah.
This could have been the airbender, waterbender, and sword guy.
You're right. They change it to, instead of being about the Avatar Master of all four elements, which in the first episode of the Netflix show, he says, we can learn waterbending together in the Northern Water Tribe. It never does. It doesn't even attempt to, which is insane. Even after she gets a scroll. Insane. What they've turned him into is a spirit guy, and his whole thing is now being taken over by other spirits. So Aang himself doesn't fucking do anything the whole 8 episodes. Instead, his whole plan for defending the Water Tribe at the end is to get taken over and to go into the Avatar state. That doesn't give your character any depth if his whole thing is getting taken over by other people.
I would have rathered see the characters 100% accurately in a story that wasn't accurate than what we got, which was inaccurate characters in an accurate story.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like they didn't need to redo the episodes that we saw, as long as the character journey was basically the same.
Yeah.
Because realistically, a lot of the episodes in Avatar, the cartoon, there's nothing crazy memorable about a lot of them. It's usually like a little situation, which is kind of what they take in this. They take those tiny little sections but then blow them out and mix them up too much. It's because they're trying to cram too many into an episode. The Omashu episode is a massive, massive mess.
Yeah, it's like a big
I think
omnibus.
it's like 6 episodes they cram in
there's
there.
a lot.
If they've blown half their episodes on one episode, what are they doing for the rest of them? The answer is nothing.
It's different from like your regular like Monster of the Week show, like Avatar is, because there's so many lessons that get learned throughout. The lessons that the whole gang go through, even just in the Northern Air Temple, like when they find the false like airbenders and stuff. Like Aang goes through his own arc there. Sokka goes through his own arc there. God knows what Katara is doing during that part. But it's like that was so pivotal for both of them. But then it all like culminates in this beautiful thing, whereas you don't really get a payoff.
Progress is okay.
You don't really get a payoff with this one.
They skip over the mechanists, they skip over everything, because the way the show uses certain things is they have the war balloon put in there, and Sokka mentions later on that he's the one that created it.
Yeah.
That happens off screen.
It's shown a bit of it, like they like, but they're mainly like expositioning when he's like tinkering.
The character arcs in the show real quick. Aang doesn't want to be the Avatar, and by the end of it, he still doesn't really want to be the Avatar, even though they make it so his journey should be him learning to want to be the Avatar. But by the end of it, he's just exhausted, and he's like, I caused all of this. Like, there's dead people everywhere, and he's like, this is my fault. And it's like, bruh, have you ever smiled in your life?
The saddest boy I've ever seen.
Katara's got the weirdest arc too. She's like, wants to learn bending, and I guess does learn bending, but for the whole middle section, she just kind of is in the background doing bending. Like, she doesn't actually... She is training, I'll give her that. Like, that is one nice thing. But because they never use her much at all in the center, apart from like the Jet episode where she's just being whingy again, it's not really interesting. And then Sokka, in Netflix, he was going to be a warrior, and instead he's going to learn to be a leader. But then in the middle, they tell him that he can be an engineer in the Mechanist episode, and you never see him doing anything inventive before or after. And then in the finale, it's the funniest thing. He's flying around on Appa, giving Aang and Katara directions.
Yeah, he's like dictating orders.
Yeah, check the left off. I'm going to go do this. And Katara,
keep pressure
quickly.
on the front.
Exactly. And it's like, that is the strangest thing. Because then they've just gone back to what he was doing in episode 1, where he was like shoring up all the kids. So he hasn't technically changed at all. But it's the whole like, you need to make this character look important, like in the Marvels, where... or in everything, where the main character is directing people out of a building. Like, that is... people don't need that. They're going to follow the crowd. If you get some people out, they're going to keep going. Instead, it's always them guiding someone.
It should have been just all three of them just making an assault on their own. Like, they didn't have to be a dictate.
Aang does that solo in the cartoon, and then notices all the other ships and goes, oh, God... and then runs back to the water tribe.
Doesn't he get like exhausted by just like beating one?
I'm just a boy. I can't do this. Whereas in Netflix, it's all three of them doing it. Then they see it and they cut to Aang and he goes, "You've got to be kidding me!" And then that's all. Like that's nothing. It's because he's already depressed the whole time.
Yeah. That was the thing about Aang in the cartoon. Whoopsie. Is that he'd go through something, or he'd discover something would happen, he'd get really sad, but then it wouldn't hold him down.
He was full of life.
That was his thing. And we'll go into this more in a later video. Yeah, all of these character arcs are neutered, like to the nth degree.
100%.
And then also don't go anywhere. Like you at least want a little bit of Sokka gets to, he gets to dictate and he gets to teach people how to fight. But then he's also at the end, he's like, I didn't get to help anyone. And Thingy died. And then Katara gets the rank of master by, and he's like, you're going to be a great master one day.
It's like they go more into weird things and less into the things you actually want to see. Like they spend a lot of time going into Iroh's past, when Iroh is better, in my opinion, if he remains more of a mystery for longer on. It feels like they've used up everything for season 1, and they're going to have nothing left for season 2, because they use a bunch of book 2 episodes in the show. And I think they're doing it because they want to stretch this to 5 or 6 seasons. And if they get people addicted now, they're like, okay, we'll blow a bunch of our load now to get people to actually want to watch the show. But we're still going to change it a bunch because we're modern writers and that's what we have to do. And then for season 2, I reckon it's going to have very little to do with thing. Maybe we get Toph. That's about it. It'll be Toph and Azula are more in the show. That's the only real change. And then we just spread this thing over years and years because Netflix needs money.
Yeah, I think they had to like top load it. To get everyone interested, because if they did slow, it probably wouldn't have had the same bang. Whereas like now they need to like jam pack everything in 4 or 5 episodes per thing.
They would have had the fans no matter what. They thought they could get new Game of Thrones fans, but also this doesn't feel like Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones was incredibly intellectual, especially with the characters. Whereas this show, everyone is a cardboard cutout, standing in front of cardboard blurry cutouts and talking speeches that were written on cardboard. I don't know how that analogy is going.
Who was this show made for?
It doesn't feel like it was made for fans because it doesn't really anywhere touch it in any means possible. And then for new people, I think it's too exposition-y. It isn't pretty enough. It has very wooden characters because they neutered everyone. So I don't think it's enough to grab anyone.
Yeah.
And it's not for Game of Thrones fans because it's not graphic enough. Like, they burn someone alive, but it's off screen.
I mean, I guess with all the like exposition we get, because 93% of the show is exposition, and it feels like it too.
Yes,
it's like very just like choked and forced. It must be catered to all new audience. Like, I don't understand it, because surely you don't write stuff down with the intention of catering it towards people who already know this information, and it's the most basic of information too. Like, yeah, I think I saw a compilation on Netflix of how many times they say he's the Avatar and the Master of all elements and stuff.
Except he masters none.
The Master of none. We could have maybe got one of these stories animated.
Imagine if they gave even one episode's budget to an animating studio.
Yeah.
And to $15 million, I'm sure they could do something crazy with that. This isn't worth it. This is like a 4 out of 10. Even standing by itself, I'd say this is a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Maybe on par with Winx Club, the Netflix show.
Ooh.
Like, that is how little this show has going on for new audiences. Whereas comparing to the original, it's probably like a 2.
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say 5 out of 10, but when compared to the original, a 3. It's just like
I'd go lower.
I'd go lower actually. Yeah. Like, compared to the original, this is a butchering.
Yeah,
this really is like the only thing this show made me want to do, and maybe this was their goal, is it made me want to go and watch the original.
The only good things we've gotten is I'm now rewatching the cartoon, and then the amount of memes and stuff, like the internet culture has just like shifted around it, either making fun of the show or just showing me clips of the original again, which is so good.
Yeah. Don't watch this show.
Don't watch this show.
But subscribe.
Watch our show, not this show.